every time, but I couldn't do it, So I was second to him.
I went in right after high school. I went right to college. And I just was lucky. I had a really good acting teacher that forced me to go audition. I said, my parents cannot afford Carnegie Mellon. He said, I know the people down there, go down there. And I got a scholarship and went to Carnegie Mellon. And so Tom showed up in our class, obviously older. He had just come back from Vietnam. And so he was trading acting classes at Carnegie for makeup classes. So I actually had Tom for a teacher in my makeup class.
I gave a B to everybody. If they did a project, they got an A, because I'm taking classes with these people that I'm teaching at the same time. Yeah.
So how long did you two know each other before you came to work together on Dawn of the Dead?
2 years.
Yeah, a year, 2 years.
Because I took a leave of absence to do Dawn of the Dead, and he joined me there. But in those days, if you saw Taso, you said, "Hey, where's Tommy?" If you saw me, you said, "Where's Taso?" Because we were inseparable. We were always together doing something.
Eventually, nobody would walk down the halls of Carnegie Mellon without looking around. If they saw one of us lurking, they knew something was up. Yeah. Gunshots and blood spraying.
Or fencing.
Some horrible thing.
Didn't you used to fire bows and arrows at each other?
We would hold cardboard boxes and shoot the box out of our hands. Okay. We were dead shots. On Friday the 13th, when Laurie Bartram was on the archery range, Sean Cunningham was out there telling me where he wanted the arrow to go, and I fired it, and it shocked him. He got so pissed off that I shot an arrow. I did a movie, The Leatherstocking Tales, with Jack Palance's daughter, and she was supposed to look out of a cave, and an arrow was supposed to land right in front of her. The director said, "How are you going to do that?" "Well, I'm just going to stand up on that rock and shoot an arrow." "No, you're not." I said, "Listen, I'm a dead shot." He put a leaf on the ground and said, "Hit that." Bink! So I did it that way. So anyway, we should shoot stuff out of each other's hands with a bow and arrow at quite a distance, actually.
Now, I can verify that Tom is a crack shot with a bullwhip, because I once held a piece of paper, he whipped it out of my hand. I wouldn't do it with a bow and arrow.
Didn't Quentin ask you if you said you wanted what's his name to have a whip, and Quentin said, "Really, how good are you?" And you put styrofoam cups.
Oh, Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, Robert did, not Quentin.
But Quentin, when Quentin did Django Unchained, I got a call from him. No, I sent him a text and said, "Hey, if you're looking for somebody that's still good with a bullwhip, let me know." And he called me and he said, "Thanks for reminding me, because I got a part for you in Django Unchained." I was going to be the guy that whips. I was going to be the guy that whips the what's her face against a tree, and Jamie Foxx shoots me. So, but I went for a riding class in Malibu to try. I mean, I used to ride horses a long time ago. I guess I forgot how. But I'm on the horse and I'm supposed to gallop. You looked at the video and said, "You can't ride a horse." Because I'm holding on to the things. I'm holding on for dear life. He's Mr. Horse. He knows everything about horses. So he saw me ride. He said, "You can't ride a horse." Anyway, that's the same way the trainer felt. She said, "You're 65 years old back then.
It's too late.
You can't be riding a horse." So Quentin changed my part to one of the trackers. And what's great about that is when I reported to the set, one of the makeup guys said, "Hey, how do you like how Quentin changed your name?" I said, "What do you mean?" Because I was supposed to be Tracker Bickle or something. He said, "He made you Tracker Cheney," because he knew I loved Lon Chaney.
Oh, that was nice.
So when I got to the set, he was supposed to approve my costume. He's way up on the crane with a cowboy hat on, and he saw me. And the crane came down, Quentin Tarantino. And he says, "Oh, thank God you don't look Italian." He had a grow beard, had long hair, And he said, "Hey man, thank you for changing my name to Cheney." He said, "I knew you'd like that," and he went away.
You've been blessed with working with some incredible filmmakers. I want to bring you back to Romero.
Okay.
The two of you did, I think, all of the stunts on Dawn of the Dead. Either one of you or the other one did the stunts.
Yeah.
Were there any rules when you came to do the stunts, or was it just a free-for-all?
No,
you did whatever you wanted.
We made it up.
They hadn't gotten their act together to hire any stuntmen, and I said, "I can do that." You know, I was a gymnast at the time. And Taso showed up, and then he and I was doing stunts. I used to walk around the mall with a sleeping bag and go sleep under the escalator or wherever I could find, and somebody would come over and say, "Hey Tom, it's time for you to play blades." Or, "Hey Tom, it's time for you to get hit by a truck." "Hey Tom, it's time for you to put makeup on somebody." You know, it was like every night was Halloween. And you know, I would try to sleep between doing those things. Because, you know, we owned the mall. We had keys to all the stores. You know, it was incredible.
So we made it up. This is the
Stunts, yeah.
You can't imagine George's mind. He has this movie that he's shooting, and we'd say, "We're going to fall off of the escalator into this fountain full of it," and George would say, "Oh, that's great," and he would instantly edit the movie in his head and put that scene in. Stunts. He would just put it in somehow.
Well, the first thing you did was you played that girl, and
with one arm getting dragged by
one arm. But the reason it was one arm because his other arm had the blood pump. So when he gets shot, he's squeezing the blood out of his eyeball as he's being dragged by the car. That was the first thing you did, okay? Right. And then I decided I was going to go over the balcony when I got killed, and we rehearsed that. I missed the pads.
I missed the pads
and the mattresses, and my feet slammed into the floor.
Marble.
And I couldn't walk for 2 weeks. I had a golf cart out of a wheelchair. And then when it was time for the stunt, we put more mattresses and more cardboard boxes and did the stunt for real in the film. But we were just making shit up. 80% of the kills and the effects in Dawn of the Dead, we came up with. We would just go to George and, "Hey, we're going to do this." "Okay."
Okay. Say, okay.
I was going to ask you about one of the kills that is referenced in Ralph Langer's behind-the-scenes footage. And there's a zombie killed with a crossbow, but the zombies killed didn't make it into the movie.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either.
We never had a crossbow.
Crossbow or a bow and arrow in the head or in the neck. And you're on it. You're shooting it. You're
really?
Directing it.
Yeah? I don't remember that one.
Well, what about the stuff that you did that maybe didn't work and was taken out of the film? It can't have been that much, surely.
Everything worked. You know why everything worked? You got to take 2, you got to take 3. You do it until it works, you know. But I don't remember an arrow in the zombie.
Okay.
I mean, it could have been, but that was 50 years ago.
Sure. The one thing that everyone talks about in the mall is the fixing of the continuity error.
Oh, with Scott Ryan.
Screwdriver.
Yeah.
And I forget which one of you came up with the idea of the screwdriver.
Oh, I did.
Was it yours?
Yeah. Because the character, John Harrison was
a
zombie.
handyman.
Yeah, and he had a
tool pouch.
Yeah. So I thought we'd just use one of the tools, you know. So I said to George, "How about if we just drive a screwdriver through his ear?" And George was like, "Okay." So 2 hours later, I'm building retractable screwdrivers out of soda straws, blood tubing in it, you know, and John Harrison's ears filled with that fake blood. I hated the blood, by the way, in Dawn of the Dead, and you should too. It looked great in the bottle, but it looked like melted crayons or something. The blood is horrible. I wish we could go back and fix the color of the blood.
Well, let's talk about that. What was it that you were using? Were you using the only stuff that was available?
Movie blood from some German
It was
company?
stage blood from the 3M company.
Oh, 3M. That's
yeah, again, it looked great in the bottle, but it's sure photographed terrible, you know. It was like strawberry Kool-Aid.
Like paint.
Terrible. You know?
Let me ask you about the sequence at the airport. We had Jim Craig here earlier telling us about. He's not in here at the minute, I don't think.
Okay.
We'd see him if he was, because he's about 9 feet tall. But Jim was telling us about the creation of his effect.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you about the kids.
That's your niece and nephew, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that, people always say, "Is there something an effect or something that you would never do?" And I would say, "Yeah, anything that involves children." And they says, "What about those 2 kids in Dawn of the Dead?" "Well, it's my niece and nephew, so who cares?"
That's okay.
I killed them easily. But what were you asking?
Well, how did you have to encourage them to get involved in that?
Okay,
What did you do to them?
I've been looking at, Jim is sitting right across from me in the room over there. I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, why? You know, because back then I did plays with Jim. You know, we were actors together in certain plays, and when I got Dawn of the Dead, I cast Jim because he had a low forehead, because I knew I was going to build it up, you know, to cut it off, okay? And I'm looking at him all weekend, and he's got a high forehead. So I'm thinking, what?
Now.
Anyway, his head was not square in Dawn of the Dead. I promise you, it was round. All that stuff that I put on him were like 5 different pieces attached to each other with different lengths of fish line. So when I told a guy to run, holding the fish line, and that's why his head unraveled, and then we just pumped blood up his pants into his head. Okay, so wait, okay, what was I talking about? I cast him because his head was low. Oh, I know what it was. His head was perfectly round. It wasn't square like you see in the movie. But by the time they shot it, the humidity made his hair swell up, and it looked like Frankenstein, you know. So it's almost like you looked at him and said, "Oh, something's going to happen to his head," you know, because it was so big.
Jim also said that Romero was sufficiently confident on the set that he allowed you to direct elements of that scene because you knew what you were doing.
Well, that happened a lot. Okay, here's the deal, and this is what I tell my students. You know, sometimes you'll do a movie, you have to teach the director that these are magic tricks, you know. You need a shot of this before that can possibly work. And so eventually it was in my contract that I would direct the scenes that my effects were in. Because the director, okay, here's an example. Have you seen Martin? Anybody seen Martin? Okay, or Friday the 13th. The Kevin Yeager kill, when Kevin Bacon, when the arrow comes out of his neck, he's under the bed pumping the blood into that thing. And the tube came off the blood pump. So he grabbed it and blew in it, and that's why the blood gurgled out of Kevin Bacon. It was a happy accident, okay? But here's an example of teaching a director that these are magic tricks. In Martin, Martin grabs this guy, chases him around the house, and he drags him out on his back, and he drives a stake in his neck. It's the same thing with Kevin Bacon, except it was going in his neck, okay? So to do that, I took the Kevin Bacon, the body that I eventually used on Kevin Bacon, and set that up, and the guy was on his stomach with his head on the fake body. And I built the ground up behind him with chicken wire and leaves and dirt, because the camera doesn't know if you're looking down or like this, because it looks like the ground is beneath him. So George came in, he said, "No, no, no, no. He dragged him out on his back. You can't have him on his stomach." I said, "George, look, it looks like he's on his back, you know, but his head is on the fake body, the ground is built up behind him, and the camera doesn't know the difference." So I taught George that magic trick, you know. Anyway, did the same thing to Kevin Bacon, with him under the bed.
We've got Marcus over here who's going to be running with the mic in a minute. I've just got a quick further question for the two of you. Start with Taso. When you were both cast in the movie as characters, as the motorcycle raiders...
Wait, in Dawn of the Dead?
In Dawn.
Oh, no. We cast ourselves. We said, we're going to be in this movie, we're going to be bikers. He became Sledge and I was Blades. Blades because I had swords and machetes, and him with that damn sledgehammer, okay? But we weren't, and George wanted to see more and more. Because the biker gang, they're not actors, you know. He wanted to see some performances, and so he wanted to see more and more of what we were doing.
So my question was going to be, did George say to you, "I want you to do this"? Well, you said, "No, we want to do this." So when you were creating the characters, did you create your costumes as well? Because you were short-haired, weren't you, in real life?
Beg your pardon?
In Dawn of the Dead, you had short hair.
Short hair, and yeah, Tom, we had stuff. We had a lot of stuff. The Eisenhower jacket, the army jacket, that came out of his attic.
Right.
And, you know, wigs and...
I just had a small mustache. I would add, you know, what the rest of it that Blades wore, you know.
And the little comb as well.
The comb, yes. The comb.
So you were just given free rein to do what you wanted?
We were improvising like crazy, you know. When I chased Ken up the thing, and I said, "I see you, chocolate man," okay? Ken didn't like that very much, okay? I said, "That's the character, you know, doing that," okay? But we were constantly, none of that was rehearsed. George said, "Just chase him up there." I jammed a sword up there right after him and said that. And almost everything we did was we came up with and improvised it, you know. Our deaths, you know, him getting torn and his guts hanging out. I don't know if you were here earlier, but, you know, when he got his guts torn out, that was real pig intestines. I mean, you can make rubber intestines. They don't look as good as the real thing. They don't slam the ground. You know, they don't make the same noise. So it was real pig intestines. He took them into the bathroom and washed them under hot water for like a half an hour before he let it touch his skin with the fake chest over it.
what I always liked about that, before we come to Marcus, what I always liked about that, and you referenced it when you were here last time, is that you die with your eyes open.
Yeah.
You said that?
I did, I guess.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
It takes a muscle contraction to close. And that's the horrible thing that I hate when actors in movies are supposed to be dead. They got their mouth closed and they're trying to look pretty for the camera. When you're dead, no muscles work, including your jaw muscles. I was a combat photographer in Vietnam. I've seen a lot of dead bodies, and they all had slack jaws. The jaw is always slack. I mean, some actors do that, and the eyes are always open. It takes a muscle contraction to close the eyes. Is that what you meant?
I guess.
I died with your eyes open. Dummy head of myself, and through the windshield, under the Verrazano Bridge. We were gone 60 seconds after I shot myself. So the police had no idea that we even did that scene. We stole so many scenes in Maniac all over New York like that, in the subway. So that was kind of, thanks for reminding me of that. That was kind of strange, shooting my own head off. I never fired a shotgun through a windshield before.
I would have been afraid that they'd come back.
The cops?
The ricochet, no, the BBs from the shotgun would come back off the windshield.
I used Magnum pellets, double, and I fired both barrels at the same time.
God.
Would you tell us, for those people that perhaps have never heard the story, would you tell the story of how you created the shotgun blast in the projects in Dawn of the Dead? That Wooly bursts through the door and kills the black guy.
Right at the beginning.
It was a real shotgun blast. There was a guy that was supposed to be blowing the head up, and the head went, it just expanded and contracted. It didn't blow up. I said, give me that goddamn shotgun. And I blew his head off, when we prepared for it, of course. Nobody was around. But he just used a real shotgun with Magnum pellets. The head was a mask of me it was Galen Ross. Galen Ross's head. See, there was supposed to be an alternate ending in Dawn of the Dead. Ken kills himself. Galen sticks her head up into the helicopter blades. But George decided to do an upending, so Ken does not kill himself. So we had this head cast of Galen Ross. I just made it like an African American with an afro hairdo, and that's the head that I shot off with the shotgun.
Inside, you want stuff to come out, so you put cereal, some kind of Kellogg or something.
We put shrimp dip, anything on the craft service table, food went in that head.
Inside the head.
With condoms filled with blood, Now that guy, the guy that was supposed to blow up the head, he was fired. He was the effects guy. He's the guy that was doing the squibs before I took over. And on press night, he was running up and down the hallways of the hotel in his underwear, shooting a machine gun. So they fired him, okay? So, and don't forget, he couldn't make the head explode, and I did it with a shotgun. He went on to do Scanners and blew up that head with a shotgun from behind. Yeah. So there's a long answer to your short question.
How are we doing for time, Colin? Are we good?
Aren't we going to stay here like all day?
All day? Well, Colin's decided whether we've got time. Is there another question in the crowd? Oh, wow. Okay. So, Tony, pick one. Tom, pick one.
Go ahead, right here.
We have 15 minutes.
Okay. So, you guys obviously did a lot of improv, especially with your special effects. So you said earlier when you during a kind of rehearsal where you kind of jumped over, you missed the marks and put yourself out for 2 or 3 weeks. What is the most serious accident that you guys had on set?
The most serious accident? Well, most of the serious accidents took place in Night Riders, with a stunt team. They were going to the hospital every day, when I'm riding away on my motorcycle and it flips over. Well, that was Freddie Heist that did the stunt, and he bruised his thigh bones, the handlebars. And they did that stunt over and over again. Every other time they did it, they would saw the handlebars so they would break off, the guys wouldn't get hurt. But yeah, they were. But the balcony, that hurt for a couple of weeks.
The most dangerous stunt is not in the film. After he hurt his heels, he drove around in a golf cart up in the shopping mall, and I was in the green room where we did all of our makeup and spent most of our time is way down this little backstage hallway.
That's where the footprints are.
And I came walking out of the hallway, and Tom and somebody else came zooming by in that golf cart. And they backed up and they went, "There's Taso, let's get get him.
So I ran
And
him
so
over.
they ran me over like a rat in a maze. I had nowhere to go.
There were footprints on the ceiling, his footprints,
Fucking ran me over.
going over the golf cart. But we were doing that
No one
constantly.
ever saw it.
Well, was that you and Marty Schiff? I seem to think it was Marty.
Could have been Marty. The two of them, they were so high, their eyes were glowing red like someone drunk or whatever. Like, oh, there he is, let's get him.
We've got a question over here.
Okay.
Your name?
Sean, you just spoke about then about the alternative ending. Alternative ending, sorry. Did you it?
I can't understand what you're
No,
saying.
The alternative ending.
Sorry.
Did he actually
Right,
shoot
the
it?
alternative ending.
The only thing we shot was Galen's body falling away from the helicopter.
Right,
We
because
had rafters with fish line holding the body up without the head. In other words, it was her body after the helicopter blades did the damage, and there was 2 feet of snow on that roof. That's all we shot is her body falling away from the helicopter.
she remembers something being shot, and I was just curious why they never did an alternative ending.
Well, he wanted to go for a happy ending.
Thank you. Any other? We've got time for. There's another question. We've had plenty of hands come up. Who's it?
Got 10 minutes.
This is for Tom. Like after Dawn of the Dead came out and it became this big success, there's a huge slew of zombie films that came out afterwards, and most famously being Lucio Fulci's films like Zombie and The Beyond and City of the Living Dead. I was wondering if you ever talked to George about Lucio Fulci's work, if he had seen them and his thoughts on it, if it's ever been discussed.
Dario Argento came to the mall while we were shooting. You remember that? You remember Dario? And he brought his daughter.
I never saw
Mr.
him.
Dario is them all.
Yeah.
You can't see
He was
it.
there. George and Dario hung out for a
I'm
while.
sure that I talked to George about that effect of the wooden stake going into that girl's eyeball. I thought that was done really well. I may have talked to George about it, but I can't remember anything else. I thought Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie overseas.
In German.
Which is different.
In the US it was called Zombie, but in Italy it was changed to called Zombie, and or it was called Zombie 2. And
Well, what's the Lucio Fulci one?
Zombie flesh eaters.
Okay.
yeah, this is called Zombie Flesh Eaters over here.
I got you.
Any other questions? And definitely
Right here.
some more hands up. Oh, coming around. He's fast.
My name is Stephanie. I have a question for Tom. And Taso, you said everything was improvised in Dawn of the Dead.
Most of it,
A
yeah.
lot of it.
I'd like the bike scene at the end when the guy puts his hand through the blood pressure machine while there's a whole bunch of zombies. Tony.
That's
you-
Tony Boober.
Was that improvised or was that something that was scripted?
George, I don't know. Everyone said that was me. It wasn't me that did that.
Tony
But
Boober.
yeah, Tony Booba. Listen, we would look around and say, how can we use that or something? I'm sure maybe.
That was one of the,
It's not
early
even-
on, they started putting those blood pressure machines out there for people to.
But it's certainly not in the script. Somebody probably said, why don't you stick your arm in there? It could have been George, could have been Tony. But again, anything we wanted, George would say, go ahead, do it. So that was the great fun of doing that movie.
If we've got time, have we got time for one more final
One
question?
more question, yeah.
Yeah. The story that I always love from you is you had to drive a bike through a plate glass window.
Yes.
I'll let you tell the story.
Well, the same guy that was supposed to blow up the head did the breakaway glass. It was this thick, okay? The only thing that wasn't padded when I drove the bike through was this knee, and that's what got hurt because the glass was so thick. And it's a good thing I was on a motorcycle, or I probably bounced off it. George used to keep a section of that glass in his office and beat it on his desk to make fun of the guy and say, look, this is breakaway glass, and it wouldn't break, okay? But yeah, so they poured the breakaway glass on the floor of the mall and then, raised it up and put store props around it. And I actually drove it through. And when I came off the
With
bike,
a ramp. So you ramped
No,
up.
there was no ramp. It
You
was
ramped,
straight.
didn't you?
No, it was straight.
It was that low to the ground?
Yeah, it was
I
right
thought
on
you
the-
ramped a jump and you were flying into
No, it was right on the floor. I just drove it right into the glass on the floor. But what was I thinking? Oh, 2 guys had to catch the motorcycle, of course, because I got knocked off.
How much damage did you do in the mall?
We didn't do any damage. There were the zombies.
Who was it? Who was it
There
that
were,
drove the
okay,
golf cart
there was a
into a
there was
pillar?
a there was a bar that stayed open till 2 in the morning. Brown Derby or something.
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Yes, that's right.
Now zombies would go in there and get drunk. A couple of zombies stole a golf cart and drove it into a marble pillar, and that was $7,000 worth of damage. But that's not the only damage I know about hurting them all.
The Volkswagen that I got dragged behind hit a pillar.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, that's why it cost a lot of money to fix the pillar and the car. It skidded. It was front wheel drive, and I don't remember who was driving the Volkswagen. I don't know. I was
I know,
dragging
but we
behind
rented
it.
those cars and just smashed the piss out of them.
Right. So the dealer managed to
Yeah.
for that.
Well, we thought we were talking about a zombie movie and actually talked about a demolition derby. I don't ever want to be in a car with either of you two men. Because I may not survive. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess. Mr. Thompson.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.